Do you fear you'll never truly change, stuck in old patterns? Ben certainly did, facing a garden mirroring his life's overwhelming mess. His anxiety whispered, "Why bother?" The weeded row reveals a powerful secret. Discover how one simple act transformed his despair into hope. Learn to conquer overwhelm and cultivate lasting change one step at a time. Ben stood at the edge of the community garden, his eyes scanning the unruly patch that had been assigned to him. Thick weeds clawed at the soil like wild fingers, choking out any hope of order. To Ben, the garden mirrored his life, a tangled mess of procrastination and disorganization that seemed impossible to fix. Each year, he promised himself, "This is the year I'll get organized." Yet each year the promise crumbled under the weight of disappointment. A heavy anxiety settled over him, familiar yet crushing. It whispered the same relentless question. Why bother? You know how this ends. Despite his desire to take control, fear held him hostage, convincing him that change was beyond his reach. He bent down and yanked a handful of weeds from the dirt. Fingers trembling slightly. But the expanse before him was daunting. Countless weeds stretched out like a forest, overwhelming and endless. Ben's heart sank. The urge to give up was tempting, just as it had been so many times before. He sank onto the stone path beside his plot, wiping sweat from his brow, feeling the weight of his failures pressing down. His gaze drifted to the garden plot next to his. There, a woman worked with quiet focus. Her plot was neat and orderly, a sharp contrast to his own neglected chaos. A wave of shame washed over him. Curious, he watched her closely. She wasn't tackling the entire garden at once. Instead, she knelt down and worked on a small, precise section, just a 3-foot row. She pulled weeds meticulously, clearing every inch with calm determination. When she finished, she stood up, smiled softly at the clean row, and packed away her tools. The victory was small but complete. It was one row beautifully tended and finished, no more, no less. Something inside Ben shifted. All these years he'd tried to change everything at once. His habits, his routines, his mindset, only to collapse beneath the enormity of it all. The woman's simple, steady approach made sense. Maybe he didn't need to fix everything in one day. Maybe he only needed to clear one row. Ben glanced back at his own garden, then slowly got to his feet. He took a deep breath and knelt down, choosing a small, manageable square of earth. He worked deliberately, pulling each weed from the soil, gathering them in a neat pile. 20 minutes passed quietly in the stillness of the afternoon. When he finished, a tidy patch of earth gleamed back at him, order restored, if only in a small corner. The overwhelming anxiety of forever began to fade, replaced by a gentle, hopeful feeling of, for now. Ben hadn't transformed his entire life, but he had changed his afternoon. And in that simple act, he glimpsed how real change truly begins, not with grand, impossible leaps, but with small, intentional steps. As he stood up and gazed over his garden, Ben felt something new take root within him, a quiet confidence that this time he might just be able to grow something better. one row at a time. The next day, Ben returns to the garden. He selects another small section, right next to the one he cleared yesterday. This time, the task seems less daunting, the weeds a little less intimidating. As he clears the soil, he notices tiny sprouts of green pushing through the earth. These are the seeds of hope, the promise of growth. Day after day, Ben returns to his garden, clearing one section at a time. The anxiety that once held him captive begins to loosen its grip. The garden, once a symbol of his failures, now blooms with possibilities. He learns that true change is not about fixing everything at once, but about taking small, deliberate steps forward. One weeded row at a time, Ben cultivates not only his garden, but also his own inner strength. He understands that even the smallest act of self-care can blossom into something extraordinary.